What's up YouTube? In today's video we are going over the Lost Box Pikachu EX deck. I think this is the best way to play the Lost Box archetype going forward. We just need an instant response to the Regidrago matchup. Other than that, every matchup feels perfectly fine. So starting off the deck, we play 4 copies of Comfey. The ability reads, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand and the other into the Lost Zone. This is perfect because we need to put cards into the Lost Zone. We do have other methods, but this is the most consistent method. We are then playing 1 copy of Pikachu EX with the ability Resolute Heart. If this Pokemon is at full HP and would be knocked out by damage, we put this Pokemon to 10 HP remaining, and then the attack for 3 energy. We discard 3 energy from this Pokemon and do 300 damage. This is perfect because it is 3 different energy types. We do have Mirage Gate and Attach per turn, so we can power this guy up in 1 turn. We then have 1 copy of Bloodmoon. This attacks cost 1 colorless less for each prize card your opponent has taken. It does 240. Pretty good as a late game attacker if we can boss up or Prime Catcher one of our opponent's basic 2 prizes. We can just finish the game with a Bloodmoon for game. We then have 1 copy of Sableye. If we have 10 cards in the Lost Zone, we can put 12 damage counters on our opponent's Pokemon in any way we like. This means we're doing 120 damage on our opponent's side of the board in any way we like. So if they have 2 60 HP Pokemon, we can knock them out. Or if they have a 70 HP Pokemon, we can knock it out, and then we still have 5 damage counters to put anywhere else. Which then does work in synergy with Topaz Bolt on Pikachu EX. Since it does 300 damage, we can put 3 damage counters on, let's say, a Charizard EX, and then hit it with a Pikachu EX next turn. We then have 1 copy of Cramorant. The ability reads, if we have 4 more cards in the Lost Zone, ignore all energy requirement in this Pokemon's attack, and then we just do 110, and this attack is unaffected by weakness. Very good in the early game of just hitting something for 110, or KOing like a 1 prizer early game. We then have 1 copy of Radiant Greninja. This is the Radiant we are choosing for the deck. It has the ability Concealed Cards. We discard an energy card from our hand and then we draw 2, as well as the attack Moonlight Shuriken is not bad for 2 water, 1 colorless. We do 90 damage to 2 of our opponent's Pokemon. And then the last Pokemon we are playing is Manaphy for the Wave Veil ability. Prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by attacks of your opponent's Pokemon. Very good because we do have a bunch of small 1 prize Pokemon. So starting off the trainers, we are playing 2 copies of Pokestop. Once during each player's turn, they may discard the top 3 cards of their deck, any item cards they put into their hand. We then play 4 copies of Colress Experiment. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 3 of them into your hand, and then the others in the Lost Zone. We then have 1 copy of Boss's Orders. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon into their active, and then 1 copy of Roxanne. You can only use this card if your opponent has 3 or less prize cards remaining. Each player shuffles their hand into the deck. The player that played Roxanne draws 6, and your opponent draws 2. So starting off the items, we play 4 copies of Nest Ball. Search your deck for a basic Pokemon, put it onto your bench. All our Pokemon are basic. We then play 4 copies of Super Rod. Very good, probably the most important, or one of the most important cards in the deck. We shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon or basic energy from our discard pile into our deck. The game plan with Super Rod and why we play 4 is we want all our basic energy into the discard as soon as possible. That way when we're playing Colress Experiment or using Flower Selecting, we don't run the risk of getting a basic energy in those mix of cards. That way it doesn't have the option of going into the Lost Zone. If they're in the discard, they can't go to the Lost Zone. We then play 4 copies of Mirage Gate. If we have 7 cards in the Lost Zone, we search our deck for 2 basic energies of different types and attach them to our Pokemon in any way we like. Very good at powering up our Radiant Greninja and Pikachu EX. We then have 4 copies of Switch Cart. Switch your active basic Pokemon to your bench. If you do, heal 30 damage from that Pokemon you move to the bench. All our Pokemon are basic, so it's the best switch out. We then play 3 copies of Buddy-Buddy Poffin. We search our deck for 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less, and then we put them onto our bench. This grabs Comfey and Manaphy. We then have 3 copies of Switch, just so we can switch our Comfeys from the active to the bench as much as possible. We have 2 copies of Night Stretcher. We put a Pokemon or basic energy from our discard pile into our hand. We then have 2 copies of Pokégear 3.0. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal a supporter, and then put it into your hand. 2 copies of Lost Vacuum. Very good at getting rid of any sort of item or stadium. We then play one copy of Prime Catcher. Prime Catcher lets us switch our opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, and we get to switch our active with our bench. It's like a switch and a boss's orders in one card. We then play one copy of Pal Pad. We shuffle 2 of our supporters from our discard pile into our deck. Very good at getting back our supporters. And then the last item we play is one copy of Hisuian Heavy Ball. We look at all our face down prize cards, find a basic Pokemon there, put it into our hand, and then put Heavy Ball into the prize cards and then shuffle them. All our Pokemon are basic, so it just reads get a Pokemon from our prize cards. And then for the energies, we are playing 3 copies of basic water energy. We then have 2 copies of basic metal, 2 copies of basic psychic, 2 copies of basic lightning, and then 2 copies of basic grass. So the way I look at it is these 2 energies, the water and the psychic, are not for the Pikachu. They're used for your Sableye and Greninja. So when you know you need your Pikachu in any matchup, turn 1 when you're prize checking, I always look for the energies. So if I know I have at least 1 of each energy prized or in the deck, I know let's say lightning's prize, and I only have these 5 energies for the Pikachu left, I know I can potentially Lost Zone 1 grass and 1 metal if I have to, because I know I'll have these 3 left for Pikachu, and then once I use Pikachu to attack, they go into the discard, which then I can Super Rod them back and then Mirage Gate them back into play. But that is going to do it for the Lost Box Pikachu EX deck profile. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think of this archetype? Do you think this has a spot in the meta with Regidrago being as good as it is? Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.